Hey everyone, I am so glad you have decided to join us, particularly for this episode of Above the Tree Line today, because it has been long awaited, long anticipated.
I have resisted,
but
fought as long as I could have.
Our ACF senior pastor, Will Davis
Hello.
Jr., has
Hi, friends.
not wanted to address this topic. I have been biting.
Because it's a colossal waste of time.
It's not a waste of time.
That's
it is
why.
Fascinating. And you know, you guys, if at acfellowship.org/podcast, we take all of your questions.
All of them.
And we find a way to answer them from a biblical perspective. This one may not have quite as much
it's got plenty of biblical
support.
perspective. Tons.
Okay, no. Okay, so the question is...
just go ahead and send the emails. I am the curmudgeon today. I'm not usually a curmudgeon today. I'm a curmudgeon, but it's fine.
And I am the young conspiracy theorist, apparently.
Naive, easily dissuaded young woman who has no... Yeah.
So the question is, and I do think we've gotten a lot of this from some of our younger audience, myself not really included in that, but I'm fascinated by it. And the question is about aliens. And by what I mean by that is extraterrestrial, other forms of life, not human beings living here on Earth, because there's been a lot of
the post office.
There's been a lot of weird stuff that has happened through the course of history that is not easy to explain. So we are going to dive into some of that, and I have a list of questions. I'm not even sure we're going to get to all of them. My notes just keep scrolling. So here's what I want to say. So Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So we have heavens being plural, and then one earth. And then it feels like from that point on, the Bible just focuses primarily on earth. Could it be that as part of the heavens, there was another planet or another something either existing in this time or in another, I don't know, Spider-Verse, that there were living life
Did you
forms.
just say Spider-Verse?
Yeah, that's the word that came to mind. Could it be that there's life forms elsewhere that are not accounted for in the Bible because the Bible focuses solely on Earth?
Yes, it could be.
But you don't think...
I think there's more evidence to argue against it, but the way you phrase the question, I'm trying to be polite.
Okay.
Yeah, the way you phrase the question.
Because what if? What if?
The two most famous words in English language.
Here, okay, so we've got, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What if somewhere else, and I'm not saying I believe this, but it's a possibility, there's another planet with a bunch of beings that are created in the image of God, and they have their own Bible, and we don't know that they exist.
That's a great what if, but there's zero, and I do mean zero with a capital Z, evidence in Scripture or in science for that. So you can do a lot of what ifs, but at some point you might think that there'd be something that would show up that would support it, and we don't have it in the Scriptures or in the world we live in.
Okay, let's talk about what we do have in the world we live in. Okay, 1947.
Here we go.
Roswell, New Mexico. So I went there recently. Just to kind of...
Of course you did.
Just to kind
in
of...
preparation for this podcast.
Just to kind of see...
Did you go on ACF's nickel to prepare for this? Okay, good.
Just to kind of see what all the fuss is about. So here you have 1947, and there's aircraft or there's debris that people don't know where it came from. We can't explain it. The government comes out and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, guys. This is a weather balloon." And a lot of people are like, this is not a weather balloon, but they can't explain exactly what it is. And I'm wondering, is it something that it's either A, came from somewhere else, or B, something the government does not want to disclose to the American public?
I'm more likely to think it's B.
Well, yeah.
So all the UFO evidence that people account to aliens is exactly what the letters stand for, unidentified
flying objects.
It's all on this side of the stratosphere. Okay, so you said...
What do you mean by that?
I mean, you began your sentence a minute ago with, let me tell you what's going on our planet. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's on our planet.
It's on our planet. So it's not in the space...
It doesn't have any indication.
Of being in the Spider-Verse.
We see things that appear to go real fast, and we see things that are there, they're not there. Who knows? But
it's something. What is it?
There's a lot of something.
There's lights. There's things that seem to defy the laws of physics moving around our atmosphere. What are they?
No telling. But to make the jump that it's from some distant universe is a big, big jump. When there's nothing else in science or in the Scriptures, and I'm more coming this theologically than even scientifically, Yes, it's on our Earth. There's things we can't explain, but it doesn't mean it's from something 16,000 light years away.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but it does have an explanation.
Somewhere it has an explanation.
But who has the explanation?
God does, ultimately.
Okay.
Sorry to play the God card.
So we've
and
got
the government in Area 51.
So ever since I was a kid, I would see these old grainy VHS tapes of lights and people. I mean, like, why are they all like hovering over the city? Why are they like all of a sudden there and
Man
then
in
gone?
Black was fictional, right?
Yes, that's not what I'm basing this off of. I'm basing this off of 1990s VHS tapes, but.
Oh, well, that's a good source.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's history. So, but I've always been like, what are these things? Okay, so let me tell you some Christian perspectives.
Okay, go.
On what some of these things are. Okay, I'm going to take us back to one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, which is Genesis 6, where we get to talk about the Nephilim. And for those of you who have not tuned in for our other Nephilim episodes, let me go ahead and tell you what this says. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them that they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. So we've got the sons of God having kids with the daughters of man. So we have these weird hybrid creatures. And it says, and they were the heroes of old, men of renown. So we've got these beings that are seemingly powerful, great. The book of Enoch, which is not part of the Bible. It's extra biblical. The book of Enoch, I did a little research in there before this episode, and it details like these wicked angelic beings. They were like revealing mysteries to humans, and ultimately says that the Nephilim were the reason for the flood. So could it be that these unidentified lights and things that we're seeing are maybe the Nephilim?
No.
I just feel like it's possible. I made such a good case for that.
You really didn't. You just read the Bible and said,
but if you read the book of Enoch, it talks about these.
Well, I don't know that we're going to spend much time on this podcast quoting extra biblical sources and using them as authoritative.
Okay. So then you don't think they're Nephilim. Okay. Next theory. Could they be some sort of angelic or demonic presence that is showing up around us?
Possibly, but that's a whole different angle than aliens. That's not extraterrestrials. That's the spiritual reality, and that could be that. I'm still thinking it's some Russian whatever.
So you still think it's government?
No, I don't. I'm joking about that. Some of the stuff we see could clearly be demonic. But that would not be in any line with something living on other planets. So let's get back to aliens.
Could you say one more thing about the Nephilim?
Please. Yes, ma'am.
All these weird like skeletons and missing link things and all these bones that are being found.
Man was a jaw.
Right,
okay, but there's so many.
These giant, like these remnants of giant artifacts where they're like, why is this skull so large? Don't you think that's Nephilim?
Well, there were clearly large humans walking the earth because Goliath was one of them.
Maybe
and
a Nephilim.
May have been. So we also argued that some of the Nephilim might have been humans who were yet whose DNA was slowly affected by sin more than others, and that's what God may have created. There may have been a better form of human that ultimately lost because of Genesis 3.
Because Goliath may have had 6 fingers on each hand.
Somebody did. It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
We don't know. Okay, but it doesn't make him from Mars.
No.
Or from somewhere beyond Mars. But that's what we're talking about today.
Okay, so do you think there are any sort of life forms?
This is reminding me of a conversation I had with a 7th grade girl one time. So sorry.
I just don't have a lot of time. I got a lot of questions. We're going to do rapid fire. Do you think that there are any kind of life forms, like even like plants, elsewhere outside of Earth?
It is. Scientists can't explain how life happened here. Okay? Mm-hmm. They got all these theories about how life happened here. They can't explain it. So to try to then project that onto somewhere that may have had water at some point is a long jump than to say that there's life. There is zero scientific evidence that any kind of life form, functional, fungi, anything, exists anywhere in the universe. It's not there. So we can imagine and go, what if? But just the hard science is We have now again.
But we also haven't explored because we
right.
are very limited for how far we can get from
so
Earth.
we've had a big old massive listening device for 50 years aimed at the heavens, listening for any kind of indication that somebody's trying to communicate with us. Although we don't know what it would sound like if they did, but they're listening, and that thing has been hitting airball for 50 years.
Or so you've been told.
It's just. But see now, okay. But theory, you can run with theory all day long.
Yeah.
I'm going to run with what we've got in science and what we've got in Scripture. So Psalm 8 says, you made man a little lower than the angels, a little lower than God. And the man...
Wait, the man is lower than angels?
It's the divine beings.
Okay.
Okay, in Psalm 8. And some translations say God, some translations say angels. I think King James says angels. You made him just below divinity. And he's talking about the humans created in Genesis 1. And there's no indication. I mean, the indication of Scripture is it's very earth-centric and it's very human-centric. That's why some people don't like it. That basically the Earth is the only planet of its nature in all the universes. And that everything else, which is still expanding, still moving out at the faster than the speed of light, was created by God to show his infinite and his brilliance. And there's just one center of attention of God, and it's Earth. And by the way, the uniqueness of Earth, the miraculous nature of Earth for life to exist and for life to be here is so precise. God could do it again in other places. There's no evidence. We haven't found any evidence that he did, though. So just if you put the theology on it and science on it, you're hitting error. There's nothing there. You can theorize what if, and it's kind of fun to do that. And Hollywood has a blast with it. But just from science and from theology, there's not much there. No, that's overstating it. There's nothing there.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, that could totally be it. There may be nothing there. However, there is something in our stratosphere that we are seeing and finding remnants of that we cannot explain. So I want to go to Area 51.
Okay.
Not physically, but...
Because you've obviously already been there.
I haven't been to Area 51. You're not allowed to take pictures there. When you enter Area 51, there's a sign that basically tells trespassers deadly force is authorized. Why is deadly force authorized if you enter Area 51?
There's obviously something in there the government does.
And what is it?
I don't know, but it's probably not a guy from our next 50,000 light years away. It's probably something that it wants to know about.
But well, then that begs the question, like, is the government allowed to have things that we shouldn't know about?
That's a whole different discussion for another time.
It is a whole different. So we have this top secret Air Force facility.
I know I'm a buzzkill. I'm sorry to be such a buzzkill today.
There are some people that believe that the Roswell aircraft that's one theory. That's what's in Area 51. But I also feel like a lot of these, like if you want to call them conspiracy theories, are fueled by the secrecy of the government. Like if they would just come out and say, hey, we've got this crazy awesome weapon that we're hiding away from you guys, so we don't want you to come see it, people wouldn't sit here and wonder if we have little green creatures that we're experimenting on. And then what?
I'm looking at our time. In John, in the Gospels, Jesus feeds the 5,000 twice. We've talked about this. And then they get in a boat and they don't have any bread. And they go, oh dear, we don't have any bread. And Jesus says to them, I just fed you twice miraculously. Why does your conversation always begin on what you do not have? Why don't you focus on what I've done for you and what you do have? To the Christian who loves to put mental energy into the what if there's something out there. Because I looked at this, and everybody loves to discuss what does it do to Christianity if there's aliens in the universe?
Could the aliens be created in God's image?
But the point is, I'm not going to put a mental energy in that because there's absolutely zero theological evidence or physical evidence that that's even a question. It's like, what if the world's really flat? That's not really something I'm going to spend time thinking about because it's probably not true. So all this discussion of does it undermine Christianity if we find life on Mars is a moot point. There's not life on Mars.
I don't think it undermines Christianity.
But I think, why can't we begin with what we have and spend time trying to solve real problems with our energy and our brains and our resources and begin with what God has given us instead of spending our time on what he hasn't given us? He doesn't address aliens in Scripture. If it
No.
was important, he would have told us.
But the reason we have to ask is because it certainly feels like something is being hidden. And so we ask that question. Like, yes, we could focus only on, like, we could pour all of our energy into the Bible, but there's this weird stuff happening out here that's inexplicable, and I don't want to be naive and not know what that is.
So you can probably rule out that it's life from some light year Star Wars.
I actually
space
agree.
thing.
I agree with that.
You can probably rule that out. And so then we have a different podcast and different discussion about why is the government hiding secrets.
Yes. And
you're
if
gonna
you want
have
us to address that,
and you're going to
please
have to
send
get
that to
somebody besides
acfellowship.org.
me to answer that because it's not a biblical topic.
But this is about faith, culture, Christianity. This does fall into culture.
Okay.
And I also wonder if this kind of stuff is happening in other countries as much as it is America. Sure. Because I'm also highly skeptical. A lot of the UFO and the weird sightings, since smartphones became like ubiquitous, the sightings
nice
have...
use of that word, sis.
Thank
Way to go.
you.
Ubiquitous.
The sightings have become extremely diminished. And some people, I won't say who.
So you think there's less sightings now we have cell phones?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And some people will say it's because the extraterrestrials know that now we can see, so they're showing up less. I mean, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying these are theories that are out there, and these are highly intelligent people. Like, these aren't crazy people that are throwing around these theories. These are respected people that have great followings.
Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds of this century, he died this century, postulated that life came to the planet Earth from aliens. That his answer to how life got here was aliens. So there's a brilliant mind who didn't answer the question of how life got here. He kicked the can down the road. So I don't know that I credit that as being all that smart. I mean, he was a brilliant, brilliant man, but his answer was, well, aliens brought us. And a 3-year-old says, well, where'd the aliens come from? So again, I don't know that this playing in this atmospheric void of there might be aliens out there is really all that smart. When we're always banging the drum of science, we got no evidence. And on top of that, if you're a theologian, you got no theological evidence.
Right.
So I want to push back and say, can we move on to a topic that's kind of relevant? Yes, there may be secrets we don't understand, but let's not write it off to something that.
Yeah.
Let's.
Yeah, and I don't believe that there's aliens, but you've also told me the same thing
You
about
have a lot of fun
dinosaurs
talking. I never did say dinosaurs don't exist.
and Nephilim.
They're clearly scriptural.
But it's scriptural.
Leviathan, no, they're totally
So
scriptural.
let's pour some energy into figuring out, why is it there? What does it mean?
I just think we ought to. Never mind.
I'm
being such a curmudgeon. I apologize.
There's more important things for us to focus on. Jesus being
Thank you.
that
Say
thing.
that again.
Yes. Jesus is the number one thing.
Thank you.
After you've learned about Jesus, though, and you still got space in your brain to learn new things.
I have not learned all I'm going to learn about Jesus.
No. But it's trying to put the
She's
pieces
gonna
together.
fire me after this podcast because I've so killed the buzz today.
You just don't,
I'm
unidentified
just not playing
Okay,
along.
we're not even going to get to the abductions that I've researched. What happened with these people who claim that they were abducted? Are they just like crazy? They're out of their mind? What happened to these people who claim that they saw UFOs? Because if all these, I mean, do we just really have that many insane people?
Can we just pause and pray? Please.
I had to do a lot of research on this.
Can I pray for you to all the abductees?
Yeah.
I think you may be one of them. I think you might be one of the abductees, Lauren. They put something in your brain, and you're really, yeah. So remember in the Men in Black when they showed the aliens and one of them was Michael Jackson? They should put your photo up there with them.
I've actually never seen Men in Black.
Oh, that's the best ever. You should see Men in Black. You'd appreciate this conversation more.
I might, but I don't believe in aliens.
Okay.
But I agree with you. Yes. Focus on Jesus. But
I'm not trying to be naive.
But I just want to know what these other things are. And I would love to do an episode on culture. What is the government hiding from us? That would be an interesting thing. Flat Earth would be a great thing to dive into.
No,
also,
it's a complete waste of time.
Moon landing.
We've been to space and seen the Earth is round.
Have we been to space?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have.
Question for another day. There's only 15 seconds left, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up.
It's been the longest podcast ever.
It's fascinating. You know what? To the many, many people who sent in the question about aliens, extraterrestrials, other life
Friend in
forms.
Lauren.
You do. I appreciate the way your minds think. And I also think this is the younger crowd that is asking these questions.
I'm wearing curmudgeon proudly today. I apologize.
Right. So I hope this gives you any sort of information. Maybe it's introduced more questions than answered.
Not helpful.
But it's not, there's no theological evidence. Bottom
There's
line.
no scientific evidence.
There's no theological evidence.
There's not theological evidence. The theology tends to put man at the center of the story on earth. So it's not, there's a pro-human theology that would preclude anything else out there. So it's not just there's not theological evidence. The theology tends to tilt the other way. That man is the center of the universe per God's design.
But then you have quantum physics and multiverses, and is man...
I'm going to go pray for you.
Just throwing that out there.
You do
Okay,
that.
we're over, but thank you again for this fantastic, I'm so excited we finally did it. If you guys have more questions, please send them to acfellowship.org/podcast. We will answer them. We've said nothing's off the table, so keep sending them in.
Obviously.
And we'll see you guys next week.